Greetings to all the students. I welcome you all on the YouTube platform of NextIS, and you are watching Daily News Analysis, an initiative where we discuss important articles published in the newspapers and the PIB. So today, with the help of this Daily News Analysis video, the topic that we'll be covering will be Khaleda Jia and the India-Bangladesh relationship under her regime, India-New Zealand recent FTA, the reforms driven India's growth journey in the year 2025, National Frequency Allocation Plan, and which is NFAP 2025, and at last we talk about the importance of Sree Narayana Guru in contemporary aspect as well. So now, without wasting time, this is the first topic visible over your screen. Recently, we know that the Khaleda Jia, the first woman Prime Minister of the Bangladesh, just passed away, and we know that she has been the stalwart of the Bangladesh National Party, the first female Prime Minister, and she has been the leading one who reshaped the Bangladesh foreign territory, not territory but only, but I would say the Bangladesh foreign vision towards the entire world as well. And especially in case with the India, in this article we will try to understand that how under her regime, what were the major reasons that were there between India and the Bangladesh bilaterally. So now the first thing that you need to understand that our Prime Minister, even Sree Narendra Modi ji, right, he said that her means Khaleda Jia's important contributions towards the development of Bangladesh as well as India-Bangladesh relations will always be remembered. So today's article will be hovered around only this India-Bangladesh relationship under her regime only. Now moving to the main part. Now before jumping to the exactly what exactly led to under her regime, we need to understand that what has been the strategic significance of Bangladesh to India. Then afterwards we will jump into the all the important issues that were there under her regime. So the first thing is geostrategic location. If you go with this geostrategic location vibe, look at this map. This is Bangladesh, West Bengal, Sikkim, Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura is here, Mizoram. So by for three sides, Bangladesh shares the border with the India, right? Plus one more thing is as well that you see, look at this part, look at this part, right? India, or I would say the Bangladesh helps the India to integrate with this entire northeast part with this Siliguri corridor, which is just 22 kilometers stretch, 22 kilometers stretch in its own, the length. And the stable Bangladesh is definitely needed for India's regional, or I would say territorial integrity, right? But we know this thing. I am just trying to add one aspect that over the couple of, I would say, past 1.5 years, there has been so much of the uproar that are taking place in the Bangladesh, and recently the election are on our forehead. But having this point, just one point to add that how India is trying to dealing its dependence upon the Bangladesh with respect to the connection to the this northeast, and not only to the northeast but to other part for say BIMSTEC and BBIN project. जब हम बांग्लादेश की वजह से नॉर्थ ईस्ट के पास जुड़े रहेंगे, and the northeast becomes the gateway for India's relationship via these platform to the countries like ASEAN, right? So बांग्लादेश जो उबल रहा है, the embroiled Bangladesh, India is taking certain decisions. For say, have this map. We know that the Chittagong port is here somewhere, right? And this is the Myanmar part, and the Sitwe port is here. This is the Sitwe port. This is Chittagong port. So India at this moment is trying to make a corridor directly from West Bengal to the Sitwe, reducing the interdependence upon the Bangladesh having a link with this part. Why so even? Because earlier, all because of this Bangladesh, the distance between the India and the West Bengal or the India's northern part to the this part northeast reduced by 800 to 1200 kilometers. So this has been the data which says that Bangladesh is needed as part of India's geostrategic importance. right? So this is the first part. Second, connectivity and the East policy. This is the same thing we just mentioned, that how connectivity with respect to the BIMSTEC part, right, with the part of BBIN project, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal. These kind of projects are there which are going to help India. One more thing as well, that how India is boosting its relationship with respect, that in 2024, the India, Bangladesh and Nepal, the three countries in the month of October 2024, they have signed a tripartite agreement with respect to the power sector, where the power will be given from India to Bangladesh and Bangladesh to the Nepal itself. So it ultimately become helpful for the sub-utilization or of the, I would say, the sub-regional cooperation with respect to the power sector, right? So again, this connectivity and the East Asia policy, India is trying to link with these kind of initiatives, right? And it is not limited in here. If we talk about the further security and the the border management part, मैं अभी उसको बैठ के link करता हूँ. For say we have the land boundary agreement. We have the land boundary agreement which was signed in 2015. And what was there in that land boundary agreement? It actually paved the way forward to ease out the enclaves, which ultimately helpful for reducing the burden of around 51,000 people, reducing the humanitarian crisis. This is this connectivity and the East, this Act East policy, right? Third, security and the counter-insurgency cooperation. There was a say that during the Khaleda Jia's time, there was certain, the militant outfits were having their shelter in the Bangladesh, especially that was the case with the ULFA, right? So, secure Bangladesh, having a better military to military cooperation, which has been there in certain exercises, first thing. Second, better intelligence gathering. Third, better interoperability. These things will ensure that a regional or thus it will help out in making sensitive India's eastern frontier safe and stable. Fourth, border management. We know that it is around 14096 kilometer of the distance. The largest distance that India shares with any of the country is Bangladesh. वो करीबन वो 4096 किलोमीटर के आसपास है, right? Roughly more than 4000 kilometers. Now, with respect of this illegal trafficking, illegal migration, drug abuse, smuggling, all other activities taken place between India and the Bangladesh border, especially we know that there is a open border, porous border with respect to the West Bengal and the Bangladesh side, right? So there as well, we ought to have a greater collaboration with the Bangladesh, right? Plus this maritime security. We know that India has a Sagar mission, right? India has a Sagar mission. And this Sagar mission is especially for the better connectivity, or I would say maritime security only. Along with that, India's Indo-Pacific vision, right? India's Indo-Pacific vision. So, link with Bangladesh is even make sure that India's maritime security like Sagar mission, Indo-Pacific vision protects the maritime interests and trade routes remain stable and terror free as well. Last, water security. How the water security? You people must have been heard a lot regarding the Tista disagreement between India and the Bangladesh. Although it was there, right? We'll cover this thing once we'll cover the issues between India and Bangladesh during the Khaleda Jia's tenure. But at this moment, these two countries, the India and the Bangladesh, 54 rivers flows through these countries. 54. The major is Tista and the Ganga, right? So, addressing the water resource management and the sharing, the aspect of the disaster management, flood control, climate change mitigation aspect, etc. are things there where India and the Bangladesh should be at the forefront. So, these things, these 6 parameters are there which showcase Bangladesh's strategic significance to India's interest. Now, coming to the part which is the main demand of the question, this topic, that what are the key issues in India-Bangladesh relationship during Khaleda Jia's tenure. So first was Teesta water sharing dispute. What is Teesta? You know, there is Pahuniri glacier, and it is there in the eastern Himalayas. It is there in the eastern Himalayas, right? And from this Pahuniri glacier, Teesta river originates, and then afterwards via Sikkim and West Bengal of India, it merges with the Brahmaputra in Bangladesh. Now onwards, I would say that 2001 se, or I would say even way back in 1983. In 1983, there has been a issue with respect to the water sharing aspect of the Teesta. Now the point is, what is this issue? The issue is, try to understand. 1983 mein, in 1983, the government of India and the Bangladesh tried to make an agreement with respect to the water sharing of the Teesta. How and in what manner? The manner was that there will be a 36% share for the Bangladesh and 39% for the India. But this, this interim agreement was never formalized. It was never implemented. Then afterwards, although was not ever part, one additional information that in 1996 we have a Ganges agreement. मतलब रिवर गंगा के ऊपर भी हमारा एक पूरा एग्रीमेंट था, and onwards 1996 both the countries thought that once we have formalized this Ganges agreement, it may give a chance to formalize the Teesta agreement, but because of many issues it never formalized. But after in 2011 जब मनमोहन सिंह साहब प्रधानमंत्री थे, he tried to again dismantle, or I would say reduce the Teesta water sharing dispute between the two countries. How these tried? One more thing as well. What was the sharing issue? That at this time in 1983, 25% के आसपास Teesta का जो water था, the 25% which was left, for the sharing part, was thought to be amalgamated or thought afterwards. This afterwards never came. But in 2011 के अंदर एक बात हुई that around 37 for the 5% of the Bangladesh will be given, and 42.5% water share will be given to the India. But it was stalled because of the opposition of the West Bengal government, which said that this water sharing agreement with the Bangladesh at this moment is a direct or a detrimental impact upon the livelihoods of the farmers and the agriculture in the West Bengal. So again, the domestic political competition was there, and this 2011 draft could not formalized. So this has been this one major part which has been started through the Khaleda Jia's tenure, and still at this moment, this absence of the permanent agreement, it remained a symbol of bilateral friction, right, with reflecting Bangladesh water security constraints and India's political constraints. Moving forward, the second part, security and the insurgency concerns. I told you there has been many news that the Ulfa based terrorists, what they used to take shelter in the Bangladesh, and all because of that, India's northeast, there was so many of the internal security problems associated there. Recently we had this thing in the Manipur or in Nagaland, right, or in the other parts. So right from that moment, the Ulfa part was there in the Bangladesh, and the land of the Bangladesh was used for anti-Indian activity, and that was the major issue between the India and the Bangladesh, especially during the security regime of Khaleda Jia. Third, economic relation at the trade. One this thing, the economic ties expanded but remained imbalanced. ये बात बहुत पुरानी है, पर मैं अगर आपको 2025 का भी डेटा हूं, if I talk about the data of the 2025, right, now please try to understand. 2025 के अंदर बात की आती है that at this moment the total turnover, in terms of the total turnover, the boost that we have, it was around 13.8 billion US dollars. 13.8 US billion dollars between India and Bangladesh. But at the very same time, this 13.8, out of those 13.8, around 11.8 is India's export to Bangladesh, right, which covers the total or the 20% of the total export to Bangladesh of India, and that is why which makes Bangladesh the second largest exporter country with respect to the India. At the very same time, only around $2 billion is the import to India from Bangladesh, right? Which is a great trade imbalance, and Bangladesh for the numerous times has highlighted this thing. This is this part. Now Dhaka even sought, or say Bangladesh sought, that duty free, quota free access to the Indian markets, and at this moment, and I told you that Indian government has given so many of the enclaves, to maintain the better people to people relationship, to make sure that there are certain areas which can be cultivated as a free market or a access to the market. और सरकार प्रयास करना चाह रही है कि बांग्लादेश और भारत के बीच में फॉर से ये अगरतला वाला जो हमारा पार्ट है, राइट, देयर वी आर ट्राइंग टू मेक श्योर दैट a proper market based enclave will be generated. So there we are trying to do this thing. Now तीन बागा corridor and people to people link. तीन बागा corridor क्या है? It was an agreement which resolved the long standing enclave issues and benefit to around 51,000 people. ये वही लैंड बाउंड्री एग्रीमेंट था जो 2015 के अंदर आया था. उसके बाद हम लोगों ने तीन बागा कॉरिडोर पर काम करना शुरू करा. And then afterwards, one major part before we jump to the conclusion, the point that we need to understand is the role of China, especially in this aspect, right? The role of China. How the role of China? Listen, first of all, रोल ऑफ चाइना में जो सबसे पहली बात मैं आपको बोलूंगा दैट देयर हैज बीन अ मोंगलो पोर्ट modernization plan has been given to India and to China both by the Bangladesh, but there has been a say that under the BRI project of the China, more than 10 billion USD based investment has been done within the Bangladesh. That means China has an upper hand compared to the India. First aspect. Second aspect, Bangladesh is the second largest importer of arms from China. That means again a huge dependency with respect to the stability. Dependency upon the China is there. ये दो पार्ट लगातार ऐसे कहते हैं which definitely says that India needs to rethink its strategy, and this can be witnessed in the recent trilateral this power sector connectivity project that we have I just discussed, which was signed MOU between the three nations India, Bangladesh, Nepal in the month of October 2024. Formalized भी हो चुका है, right? So India is trying to counter the importance of China with respect to these aspects. Now there is one aspect also as well, the role of USA. थोड़ी सी बात है, just a very small aspect, that USA has never had a very good relationship with the Bangladesh. That was majorly its linkages, or I would say historic linkages with the Pakistan. In 1971 में क्या हुआ था? We all know about this thing, right? Then afterwards, this thing, USA has a very limited role, but they have a role to play. Why? Only to counter the Chinese influence in this particular region. And if I correlate this thing with the statement given by the ex-Prime Minister who is in the India, that one of the USA delegate came to meet her and was asking for a land to make sure that there will be a different land, or they may use that particular island, the Saint Martin Island. Although I not cover the Saint Martin Island aspect in here, but there was an issue is there. So the role of USA, the role of China, in between of that, India is trying to downgrade the Chinese influence and try to upgrade its own interest in the Bangladesh. So this is all regarding the China, the China, USA, India angle in the Bangladesh, and how India is trying to delink China from the other parts. This is the practice question. Do practices, write the answer in 250 words, 15 markers. You need any help, feel free to reach out to us in next IS. Now let's start with today's second topic, visible over screen, is the India-New Zealand FTA unlocking the growth. So this topic is all about the free trade agreement, which reflects the confidence in India as a resilient player in the international trade and a reliable economic partner with respect to the other countries. Now, before we actually go into these aspects, you need to understand one thing, that see, India is trying to have a relationship with respect to the FTA with different countries, but there is a differentiation. First of all, you need to understand that nowadays India's FTA has become, or there has been a clear-cut change, that India using this FTA from the part of protectionism, to calibrated openness with respect to the economic transformation, openness with respect to having a relationship with the strengthening its this economic relationship with the countries like New Zealand, like UK, like UAE. So the strengthened economy. But how it is different? It is different because this FTA that we are using, why this is protectionist to the calibrated openness? Because it is being differentiated. We are using it as a differentiated FTA. That means not one size fit for all FTA. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? इसका मतलब ये हुआ, फॉर से अगर इंडिया ने एक FTA साइन करा हमारा UAE के साथ में, राइट? सो दैट वाज मेजरली फॉर बेस फॉर द हेल्थ केयर एस्पेक्ट. अगर मैं यही बात करता हूं कि हम लोगों ने जब यूके के साथ में साइन करा, द मोमेंट व्हेन इंडिया साइंड इट विद द यूके, इंडिया साइंड इट फॉर मेजरली फॉर द पार्ट ऑफ द सर्विस पार्ट, राइट, एंड फॉर द पार्ट ऑफ मिनरल्स. अब अगर मैं इसी बात को स्टार्ट करूं ऑस्ट्रेलिया के साथ में, सो अगेन इट वाज मेजरली फॉर द हेल्थ पार्ट, राइट. यूके के साथ में हम लोगों ने मिनरल्स के लिए साइन करा. सो each and every country there is a differentiation. Now with respect to the न्यूजीलैंड, जो हम आज टॉपिक की बात कर रहे हैं, इंडिया मेजरली एग्रीकल्चर इनपुट्स की बात कर रहा है with respect to the FTA. So this differentiated approach of the FTA with respect to the different countries is supporting India's changes from protectionism to calibrated openness, which will definitely support India's economic transformation. Right? Now after this thing, jump to what has been exactly there. इसके बीच में है क्या क्या, राइट? की फीचर्स क्या है? सो द फर्स्ट फीचर इज, अच्छा इसके पहले भी वन मोर थिंग एज वेल, दैट व्हाई इंडिया इज हैविंग अ फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट विद द दिस न्यूजीलैंड. द रीजन बीइंग, इफ यू गो विद दिस लकूने, दैट आई टोल्ड यू दैट देयर इज अ सागर विजन, राइट? सागर विजन which is telling that there has to be a maritime security and stability, which will definitely align with India's Indo-Pacific vision, Indian Ocean. First thing. Second thing, we know that New Zealand is a very peace-loving, very small country, but there has been a lesser corruption. So if the lesser corruption will be there, that means that there will be a visible outcomes, right, or policies with which India can deal effectively as per its interest, and that is the reason India is having a this FTA, especially with the pass of this New Zealand. Now under this part, we will try to understand how this FTA or what has been there in this FTA part. हम बात करेंगे FTA के अंदर क्या क्या है. Now the part is that there will be a market access and the tariff concession part. For say 100% duty free access for India's export to New Zealand. That means the tariff on all Indian goods entering New Zealand are eliminated. Right? Very important thing. Second, New Zealand will reduce or eliminate tariff on 95% of its export to the India. That means it will be phased over a particular time. Now, this tariff elimination is among the highest liberalization levels in any Indian FTA, especially for a developed economy like the New Zealand. Second, zero duty on the Indian export will be, the type, ये आपके prelims के लिए important है. For say textile, leather, engineering goods, marine, gems and jewelry, handicraft, pharmaceuticals and the chemicals, for other things associated. Now the part, investment and the economic cooperation. New Zealand has committed to 20 billion of the investment into the India over the next 15 years. That means a better people to people connection, a better business to business atmosphere. Plus, the long term investment commitment complements India's Make in India and economic growth agenda. Why this point is so important? Because we know that at this moment India's focus is more towards making its manufacturing part stable. That means the gap that has been left over by the decline of the manufacturing activities in China in the global supply chain part, India उसको full करना चाहता है with the advancement of the Make in India, and that is why हम देख रहे हैं कि engineering goods के अंदर भी इंडिया लगातार ये tariff का limit कर रहा है, right? Just to make sure, right, to understand, to fill the gap in the global supply chain. Now the part is strategic impact क्या होगा? This signals confidence and help integrate bilateral supply chains, which is vital as India seeks to become a global manufacturing and a services hub. Second, services skill and mobility. It even includes provisions to liberalize the services trade such as IT, such as services, education, professional services, tourism, business, etc. Now, this mobility pathways for Indian professional skilled workers, right? Post-study work opportunities are part of this agreement, which supports the people-to-people connection and the talent flows as well, which will ultimately work in India as an Indian diaspora that we have witnessed in different countries. So ultimately again, ये भी हमारा long-term economic transformation के लिए जरूरी है, right? And how these things will be effective or implication that it will have a strong comparative advantage in services. Improved access abroad can lead to the higher remittance. Remittance can again lead to about a long-term economic transformation and global presence for India's professionals, which will definitely work as a India's diaspora near future. Sectoral and the cooperative gains. How? It is visible in the healthcare and the traditional medicine. For say, this agreement includes an annex on health and traditional medicine services, which opens certain new avenues for Indian healthcare in the Bangladesh. Plus, agriculture, technology and productivity partnership will foster innovation and the better market integration of New Zealand and the India. Regulatory cooperation as well. It will streamline custom procedures, transparency and the cooperation standards, which will reduce the non-tariff barriers. Now, इसके strategic rationale क्या है and the broader benefits? The first and the foremost will be the trade diversification. We know that India's total trade in goods and services exceeds 1.6 trillion, right? With trade deficit and the exposure to fluctuation tariff. Aligning with the markets like New Zealand will hedge risk and expand the export part. So again, as part I say, कि एक तो especially after math of having struggling our economy after USA's unnecessary reciprocal tariffs or the 50% tariff aspect against India's economy, the Indian government has been trying to enhance its, this expand this export with respect to the diversification with respect to different countries as well. We may look this aspect into this part, this trade diversification, right? And bilateral trade with New Zealand, all the borders said 2.4 billion in 20, but has gone expected to double in the next 5 years after this FTA. Plus, second, strengthening Indo-Pacific economic architecture. This FTA enhancing India's engagement with the Indian Pacific region, aligning with its overall foreign policy and economic strategy aimed at stable and sustainable practices in Asia Pacific. And third, industry endorsement. For say, there are certain bodies in FICCI hai, PHDCCI hai, CII hai. They all have welcomed the FTA with the New Zealand as a new generation people-centric agreement that supports growth, MSME participation, talent mobility, and aligns with India's long-term economic vision, which is Viksit Bharat wala part, right? One point before we talk about the challenges, that we need to understand that this FTA with this kind of economy for say New Zealand, UAE and the UK will help India upgrade its standards right? And it even will be helpful for India to improve its export credibility, upgrade export credibility, right? And after these two things, if the third part, if I would say that it was definitely integrate India with premium economies, which will definitely foster India's interest in near future with respect to the economic transformation. So इन तीनों points को हमें दिमाग में लगातार रखना है, and that is the reason the tariff वाला aspect, and then afterwards India search for the trade diversification. But the picture is not that rosy. Why? Because there are certain challenges. The first challenge is the domestic sector sensitivities. The first most part है, although India is trying to have a relationship with the agriculture part, but within agriculture, India ने concerns है increase imports of the fruits. Why so? Because it affects the India's horticulture sector, leading to a political pushback and calls for the safeguard measures. One my own example for say आजादपुर मंडी के अंदर I used to have this apples, but thus the import of the New Zealand based apple, this match is not visible with the other apples that are there in the market. So although it's so costly because the import part as well there, but in near future after the FTA, the import bill will not be there, import tariff will not be there, इनपुट पर कोई ड्यूटी नहीं लगेगा. So ultimately अगर मान के चलिए it has at this moment in आजादपुर मंडी ये 300 रुपए किलो का है, तो there is a probability that it will be by 220 kg, 220 rupee per kg, 200 rupee per kg. So ultimately it will have a competition with the direct apples of the Indian born. So India के horticulture sector के लिए ये चीज ठीक आगे जाके नहीं होगी. So we need to put certain safeguard measures for sure. Second, the scale of trade. Scale of trade means FTA is always strategic. अभी हम लोग उसके बारे में बैठ के पूरा डिस्कस कर चुके हैं, right? Why this is strategic? डिस्कस कर लिया. But the absolute volume of bilateral trade is very small. Why? Because इंडिया का जो न्यूजीलैंड की इकोनॉमी थोड़ी सी छोटी है, ज्यादा बड़ी नहीं है. Especially compared with India's total global commerce, that its economic impact will depend upon the effective implementation, market penetration, and the reforms both the countries will be implemented in the near course of future, right? Now after that, again, because this topic is so important, then there is one again the question that you people need to write up. Do practice at your home. In case you need any help, feel free to reach out to us. Cut. Now again there is a question over your screen. Now start with the third topic of today's topic, which is reforms driving India's growth journey. In this topic, actually, our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi ji, has underscored the transformative reforms undertaken by the government in 2025, which has paved the way forward for India's economy to firmly on the path of accelerated growth and the development, which underline that India's boarded the reform express. This is the tagline. That India has boarded the reform express. So now the point is, we'll in this part try to understand that what were those major reforms and their impact that was there in the past 2025. So now without wasting time, first the taxation. We all know about the GST part initiated in 2017 after 101st Constitutional Amendment Act, right? Government reduced to 2 slab GST structure, 5%, 8%, having a link with the middle class, the poor class and the upper rich as well, right? You have to understand that why Indian government did not have only one single GST slab in India, just to make sure that the differentiation in the income that we have in the strata of the society in India is different. That is why 5% and 18%. It will have a residual impact, that it will reduction in the tax dispute, faster GST refunds and lower compliance cost for the MSMEs, right? A wider significance, it simplifies the indirect taxation, which is the GST, and boosts the consumption and the formalization. Why the consumption and the formalization? because ultimately once we have more money in our hand, we'll go and buy more money in the market. तो कंजम्पशन की लगातार साइकिल बैठ के लगातार बनती है. सेकंड, द इनकम टैक्स एक्ट. We recently have simplified the new tax and replaced the 1961 Act. Again, we know that by 12.75 lakhs there is no tax, right? आपको पूरा टैक्स फ्री है. So these are those things कि टैक्स रिजम्पशन है, एग्जम्पशन 12 लाख के इनकम तक और 0.75,000 उसमें आप जोड़ सकते हैं अपना जो रिडक्शन होता है. तो टोटल इज 12.75 लैक्स. 12.5 लाख तक आपको 12,75,000 तक आपको भारत सरकार को कोई भी टैक्स देने की जरूरत नहीं है. अगेन the simplification in the income tax act, right? It will definitely increase in the disposable income, the money that we have in our hand. Why? Because by the time I'm earning 10 lakhs, or so not 10 lakhs but 12.75 lakhs, I'm not liable to pay any tax to the government of India. So more money in my hand, more I will go and invest more in the market, or I'll have keep in my bank account, or I'll invest in certain other government scheme funds as well. So ultimately the money will be circulated in the market boom will be there. If the money in the banks, the bank people will be there. I mean earlier for say बैंक के पास लगातार 5 रुपए होते थे, but now बैंक के पास 8 रुपए हैं. That means the bank have 3 rupee more to lend to the customers, and once they have the more money to lend to the customers, the long term impact will be that in near future the interest rate will come down for sure, right? क्यों? क्योंकि बैंक की लगातार इनकम बढ़ती जाएगी, तो अपने आप ही वो इंटरेस्ट रेट को लगातार कम करते जाएंगे. सो अल्टीमेटली जब लगातार इंटरेस्ट रेट कम होगा, देन अगेन पीपल लाइक यू एंड मी विल गो एंड आस्क फॉर द मोर मनी फ्रॉम द बैंक्स. सो अ साइकिल विल बी देयर वेयर अ कंटिन्यूअस सर्कुलर फ्लो ऑफ इनकम विल बी देयर फॉर बोथ इंडिविजुअल्स, हाउसहोल्ड्स एंड द फर्म्स एज वेल. सो हमारी नेशनल इनकम आगे जाके लगातार बढ़ती जाएगी, जीडीपी लगातार बैठ के हमारी बढ़ेगी, राइट? प्लस फेसलेस टैक्स इकोसिस्टम, expansion of the faceless assessment and the appeal. It will definitely help in reduction in the tax litigation and lower the corruption complaint that has been there. So this is this taxation part. Second, हम देखेंगे इसमें investment and the capital market reforms. First, 100% FDI in the insurance part, which is through automatic route permitted. This is a very significant aspect. इसका फायदा क्या होगा? पहला, it will help in higher foreign capital outflow in India. Right? Second, improved insurance penetration in India. But there is a long-term outcome, deeper financial inclusion and the risk coverage. Why? Because the more insurance penetration, the more people will come into this basket and the more financial inclusion will be there as well. And if I align this thing with जो प्रधानमंत्री ने जनधन योजना अपनी जो लगातार बैठ के चलाई है PMGDY, और उसको हम लोग अभी जो बैंक के बारे में हमने बैठ के डिस्कस करा है कि बैंक लगातार बैठ के पैसे कमाते रहेंगे, यू अलाइन दीज टू थिंग्स विल हैव अ बेटर फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन एस्पेक्ट इन इंडिया, राइट? प्लस सिक्योरिटीज मार्केट कोड, यूनिफाइड फ्रेमवर्क रिप्लेसिंग द मल्टीपल कोर्स, which will definitely help you in the faster approvals and stronger investor protection. Why? उनको लगेगा भारत के अंदर रेड टेप नाम की चीज नहीं है, स्मूथ हो रहा है, वन विंडो क्लियरेंस है, go for it. So a business atmosphere will be generated, right? And it improves the ease of doing business and the market confidence. Why? वो इसीलिए. Third, bond market reforms. Government in 2005 has simplified the issuance norms, which will definitely lower cost of capital firms, and that will ultimately support the infrastructure financing in India. Third part जो हम देखेंगे, ease of doing business in the industrial reforms. Quality control orders, removal and the suspension of the multiple quality control orders. It will definitely help in faster manufacturing output and reduce compliance burden, which will ultimately help boosting the make in India aspect. और once make in India aspect growth होगा, हमारा manufacturing लगातार बैठ के ग्रो करेगा. Second, regulatory pruning has, जैसे कि we have sunset clause and the decriminalization has been there. This will definitely helpful in reduction in the minor offense and faster business offices. तो हम देखते हैं that with this part the government is trying to shift from the regulator to the facilitator state, कि हम आपको regulate नहीं कर रहे हैं, but we are giving all the the dimensions that is needed for you to facilitate your business. So we want you to come and work within my state, and I'll let you all the chances that your business will be grow. लॉजिस्टिक्स रिफॉर्म्स, जैसे कि मैरीटाइम लॉ ओवरऑल हम लोगों ने कर दिया, वो फिर अगेन बात होगा, फास्टर पोर्ट टर्न अराउंड है, मैं आपको ये बता रहा हूं, फास्टर पोर्ट टर्न अराउंड, हाउ दिस थिंग हैज बीन हेल्प्ड, ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड। बिफोर आई वुड से 2017-18 तक में अगर बात करूं, या 2020 तक, 2020 तक भारत सरकार का ये पार्ट था दैट द टर्न अराउंड टाइम इन इंडिया with respect to the shipment was around 2.97 days, right? But at this moment 2025 की बात करूंगा तो it has down to the level of 0.97 days. Turnaround time क्या होता है? That imagine a ship came to the port, stayed there, उसमें जो सामान था हम लोगों ने उसको उतार दिया, that means we deloaded it, and whatever the new the goods and services that we used to give, वो हमने सारा गुड्स उसके अंदर फिर से हमने बैठ के पैक कर दिया और शिप अपने बैठ के लौट के चला गया। टर्न अराउंड टाइम, दिस टर्न अराउंड टाइम हैज बीन नाउ इन इंडिया इज बीन अराउंड 0.97 days, which is better than major advanced economies, and it facilitates more trade. ये ज्यादा ट्रेड को प्रमोट करता है। और एक और फायदा क्या होगा, इट विल इवन स्ट्रेंथन इंडियाज पोर्ट एज अ ग्लोबल ट्रेड हब. So ultimately more revenue will come. The more revenue will come, the more port development will come, and with the more port development will take place, more economic activities take place. More economic activities, more employment generation. More employment generation, more growth to the GDP. This is the cycle. Fourth, labor law, labor codes. 29 नो मर्ज इंटू 4 को, ये तो सिर्फ और सिर्फ इनकी बात है. अगर मैं भारत के अंदर सिर्फ और सिर्फ लेबर कोड्स की बात करता हूं तो इन मल्टीप्लिसिटी देयर वर अराउंड 300 लेबर लॉज इन इंडिया. अगर मैं स्टेट और सेंटर दोनों को मिला लेता हूं, स्टेट प्लस सेंटर, 300 से ज्यादा लेबर लॉज थे. Now then the afterwards the problem was that how to effectively implement it, which law to what extent we need to cover. कंपनीज को लगातार ये डर रहता था कि भाई किस लॉ के अंतर्गत मुझे बैठ के पकड़ना रहे. इंस्पेक्टर राज लगातार बैठ के चलता था. और ये मैं नहीं कह रहा हूं, भारत सरकार की तमाम डिफरेंट नीतियों को ये रिपोर्ट बोल रही है. एंड दैट इज व्हाई वी हैव थॉट कि 2019 से भारत सरकार का जो प्रयास था, नाउ इट हैज बीन फॉर्मुलाइज्ड, कि हम लोगों ने लगातार वी हैव सिंप्लीफाइड द लेबर कंप्लायंस इनटू द 4 लेबर कोड्स, which will definitely helpful for the wider social coverage and formalization of the workforce. Plus women workforce provisions, आज की तारीख में अराउंड 37% के आसपास हमारा फीमेल लेबर फोर्स पार्टिसिपेशन है. नाइट शिफ्ट की सेफ्टी है विमेन के साथ में. मैटरनिटी बेनिफिट एक्ट में हम लोगों ने 2016 के अंदर या 2018 के अंदर हम लोगों ने बैठ के उसको अमेंड कर दिया है, कृषि फैसिलिटी दे दी है, 26 आवर हम लोगों ने पेड लीव दे दिया है विमेन को. सो द अल्टीमेटली इज द सेफ्टी टू द विमेन विद रेस्पेक्ट टू देयर जॉब. अब अगर इसी बात को हम मानेंगे तो आपको याद है गीता गोपीनाथ ने, द गीता गोपीनाथ सेड दैट इफ वी लिंक इंडियाज फीमेल लेबर फोर्स और द इंडियन नॉट लेबर फोर्स बट वी लिंक इंडियाज फीमेल वर्क फोर्स टू इज इंडियाज पावर, दैट इट विल बी डेफिनेटली बूस्ट टू 3% ऑफ द जीडीपी, जो हमको आज की तारीख में लगातार दिख रही है. व्हाई सो? बिकॉज एट दिस मोमेंट आज ही भारत सरकार ने ये देयर वाज अ न्यूज दैट इंडिया इज बिकमिंग $4.18 trillion इकोनॉमी. And we have officially surpassed Japan. Officially. अब ये बात भारत सरकार ने बोल दी है. पहले ये बात थी that India has surpassed the Japan. But at this moment, we are officially the 4th largest economy in the world. And with all the reforms that we have, भारत सरकार बोल रही है that by 2030, we will be the 3rd largest economy. Right? सो दो जेंडर इंक्लूसिव ग्रोथ की हम बात वेस्टर्न नेशन के अंदर करते थे, इट विल बी विजिबल इन इंडिया एज वेल. दिस इज द एस्पेक्ट ऑफ दिस पार्ट. नाउ एनर्जी एंड स्ट्रेटेजिक सेक्टर रिफॉर्म्स. फॉर से रिसेंटली वी हैव दिस शांति एक्ट वेयर वी हैव आस्क्ड द प्राइवेट सेक्टर टू पार्टिसिपेट इन द न्यूक्लियर सेक्टर, जो आज तक सिर्फ और सिर्फ सरकार के लिए था. दैट मीन्स इट विल इंक्रीज द क्लीन बेस लोड पावर and will helpful for India to maintain its net zero goals by 2070. And the energy security as well. We know that India, एक data है that by 2035 India will be the largest energy hunger country. Energy hunger country. Now look at this part. इस part को ध्यान में रखने के लिए, although at this moment we are trying to have a very balanced act with Russia, right? Balanced act with Russia. But at the very same time, now we are asking the private sector to become partner in our nuclear journey as well. दिस शांति पावर एक्ट। प्लस क्लीन एनर्जी पुश, न्यूक्लियर प्लस रिन्यूएबल्स, उसको हम देख सकते हैं बायो इथेनॉल के माध्यम से भी, बायोडीजल के माध्यम से भी, राइट, और एक्सेट्रा दिस काइंड ऑफ। तो वो हमेशा एक कार्बन इंटेंसिटी को भारत की को बैठ के लगातार यूज, मतलब इंटेंसिटी को रिड्यूस करेंगे। दैट मीन्स इन नियर फ्यूचर इंडिया विल हैव अ मोर से इन द क्लाइमेट नेगोशिएशंस एंड इंडिया फ्रीली कैन मूव ऑन द लॉन्ग टर्म बेस्ड इकोनॉमिक ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन, क्लाइमेट कमिटमेंट्स। एंड आफ्टर दिस थिंग पार्ट, एक पार्ट जो है दिस इज अ क्वेश्चन based on the reform part, the prelims based questions. Practice this question. In case you need any help, feel free to come to us. और I would say इसके बारे में आप हमें इसी वीडियो के अंदर कमेंट सेक्शन के अंदर let us know the answer. Now the fourth topic, this is National Frequency Allocation Plan. This question अभी DOT ने डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ टेलीकम्युनिकेशन में इसको इफेक्ट करा है, which will be effective from the 30 December 2025. Which will aligning India with global spectrum standards. So aligning with your paper 3, this topic is very important. Now the part is NFAP है क्या? First, this is called National Frequency Allocation Plan, which is the government policy document that specifies which portions of the electromagnetic spectrum ranging from 8.3 to 300 gigahertz are assigned to different types of radio communication services. And these services include the satellite communication, the mobile network, the broadcasting emergency services, and the other wireless technology as well. Primary reference for spectrum managers, telecom service providers, and equipment manufacturer operating in India. So now with this policy, the government of India is trying to have its say in terms with respect to the spectrum allocation in India. तो जो बात 2016 से हम सरकार के अंदर देख रहे हैं, which has been there in the mind of the government of India since 2016, आज वो फॉर्मेट हम तो होती हुई लगातार दिख रही है। नाउ ये होता क्या है, क्या इसके फायदे होंगे? सो दिस इफेक्टिव स्पेक्ट्रम एलोकेशन इज एसेंशियल फॉर इंडिया। फर्स्ट, एनहांसिंग टेलीकॉम सर्विस क्वालिटी एंड द कवरेज। सेकंड, supporting and deployment the growth of 5G, 5G advanced and future 6G networks, especially the case of IoT, machine learning, AI का जो जमाना चल रहा है उसके बारे में। प्लस boosting digital infrastructure and the innovation in India, aligning India's spectrum use with global standards, and last, facilitating investment from telecom operators and the technology firms. So this is this aspect. Now, what are the key features of this NFAP part? The first is its support for next generation mobile networks. जैसे कि we know that a significant portion this megahertz has been identified for international mobile telecommunication. This expanded mid-band spectrum will play a crucial role in first, enhancing capacity and speed of 5G and the 5G advanced services. Second, laying the foundation for the future of 6G ecosystem. Why the enhancing capacity of speed of 5G or 5G? 5G को हम लोग वैसे भी अल्ट्रा लेटेंसी के लिए लगातार जानते हैं. It has been known for the ultra latency. But even the part which has been say कि आज की तारीख हम अगर हम कार की बात करते हैं तो एडा सिस्टम लगातार हमारे आ रहा है. प्लस हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं कार टू कार कनेक्शन की बात कर रहे हैं आज की तारीख में, राइट? कार टू कार कनेक्शन तो और अदर्स ऑल द थिंग्स हैज बीन देयर जो अभी भी लगातार पूरी तरीके से 5G का हम लोग उपयोग नहीं कर पाए हैं. सो दिस पार्ट इज लिंक्ड विद दैट ओनली. प्लस मीटिंग इंक्रीजिंग डेटा डिमांड फॉर द कंज्यूमर्स एंड द एंटरप्राइजेस. प्लस सेकंड है सैटेलाइट ब्रॉडबैंड सर्विसेज. कैसे? दिस एलोकेट्स की मिलीमीटर वेव frequency bands of the Ka, Q and V bands for the satellite based communication. और जो हाई फ्रीक्वेंसी है इनकी हम बात कर रहे हैं, ये मिलीमीटर मतलब हाई फ्रीक्वेंसी, राइट? ये क्रूशियल किस लिए है? बिकॉज ऑफ हाई थ्रूपुट सैटेलाइट्स एंड द लार्ज सैटेलाइट constellations delivering broadband access to remote and the unserved regions and supporting India's global telecom or satellite based initiatives in the near future, right? Plus in flight and maritime connectivity, ये क्या है? New plan increasing sorry spectrum availability for in flight and maritime connectivity. उसके क्या फायदे होंगे? जैसे कि It will be helpful for the aircraft passenger and the crew, plus ships and the maritime platforms at sea, right? And this will definitely enhance the safety, navigation, passenger experience while supporting India goal to become a global digital hub for air and the maritime services. फोर्थ है emerging technologies for say advanced services, इसको हम बोलते हैं IoT हो गया, machine learning हो गया, right? Robotics हो गया. How it will be helpful? It will be helpful for connected and the automatic vehicles, जो मैंने आपके बैठ के बात करी है कि 5G का अब तक हम लोग बैठ के इस्तेमाल ही नहीं कर पाए हैं, प्लस इंटरनेट ऑफ थिंग्स एंड द स्मार्ट सिटी सॉल्यूशंस. नाउ इसका इंपैक्ट क्या होगा? उस इंपैक्ट को हम लोग 3 डिफरेंट पार्ट्स में बैठ के समझ सकते हैं कि जो NFAP है उसको अगर इंप्लीमेंट करते हैं, दैट व्हाट कुड बी द मोर पॉसिबल आउटकम्स ऑफ दैट. द फर्स्ट इज इट वर्क एज अ कैटलिस्ट फॉर द डिजिटल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन व्हिच एनहांसेस network capacity and data throughput in India. First. Second, strengthen broadband penetration and support digital public infrastructure, smart city and e-governance projects in India. Second, global harmonization and the strategic alignment. कैसे? That it ensures interoperability of the devices. Interoperability मतलब devices working together. Devices working together smoothly, right? मतलब how easily and smoothly 2 devices can work with each other is called this interoperability. So this NFAP, once we have a better data connectivity, better satellite transmission part with there, better broadband connectivity will be there, we may say that it will ensure interoperability of the devices, reduce the equipment and the seamless cross-border connectivity, while position India as a credible and predictable player in the global telecom and satellite ecosystem. Second, now the third is boost to innovation and the investment climate. Once we know that all the things are there in India, it will ultimately give India a chance to ask, or not ask, but to attract the global investors with respect to the this long-term capital investment, indigenous R&D, manufacturer under Make in India, especially in this broadband satellite connectivity aspect, right? And then again, this is the practice question visible over your screen. Do practices and let us know the answer in the comment section. Now let's start with the last topic of today's discussion, which is that the Vice President highlighting endurance relevance of Sree Narayana Guru's teachings. So the point is, we'll talk about Sree Narayana Guru's aspect and his contemporary part or other part. Sree Narayana Guru has been a social reformer and he's been known for his one single slogan, that was one caste, one religion, one God for humankind. Now a little bit aspect that why did he say so, right? We know that if we talk about especially with respect to the Kerala in the 19th century, right? Kerala in the 19th century was filled with caste rigidity, and this caste rigidity was part in the untouchability. It was visible in untouchability, and not mere part is, but even we know that the religious authority, the religious authority, हमें बात कर रहे हैं केरला 19th century की. So the religious authority monopolized by upper caste. So at this moment, when this was the situation in the Kerala, the Sree Narayana Guru came forward and he said that at this moment the social reform is or cannot be go with merely political will, but rather we at this moment need ethical legitimacy. और उस ethical legitimacy के लिए ही एक और statement था, which was a slogan that was given by him when he says that caste discrimination was not only unethical, but this is fully philosophically false. Then afterwards, he even gave one slogan that we may say that a contribution lies in transforming religion from an instrument of exclusion into a force of ethical unity, dignity and rationality. But how this part is so important? Because Sree Narayan Guru, even in at this 19th part, he gave one more aspect as well when he says that the social reform, he said that social reform without education, social reform without education is not sustainable, not sustainable. And इस बात के बाद ही again gave one slogan which was education. The another slogan that he gave was education, organize, strengthen. Now, one social reformer who worked a lot for the ethical legitimacy, which is against the caste rigidity, at the very same time he said that all the things cannot be undone without giving education, organize and the strengthen. So, Sree Narayan Guruji's role as a social reformer is linked not only voicing against the caste rigidity, but also even imparting the education among the masses. Now, the last paragraph, this is visible in the Aravipuram Pratishtha 1888 का एक पूरा case था, where the Narayan Guru consecrated a Shiva idol at Aravipuram, directly violating caste restriction of temple worship. When questioned, he replied, "This is an Ajwa Shiva." And this act was revolutionary. Why? Because he challenged the Brahminical monopoly over religious authority. He democratized spirituality without violence. And third, he replaced the birth-based privilege with the ethical legitimacy. And we have talked about this thing earlier. So, one example, Aravipuram, Pratishtha that we can correlate with. Plus, engagement with the national movement. As a social reformer, his past was not only linked with the part of the caste annihilation, but the social reform. For say, the temple entry movement, the eradication of the untouchability, the moral leadership in the mass movement, which ultimately paid a forward, where a mass movement is visible, especially in the national movement. Contemporary relevance. Sree Narayan Guruji's philosophy at this moment can be seen that it reinforced constitutional values of equality and the fraternity, supports scientific temper and the humanism, which is an article 51A, and promotes interfaith harmony and the social cohesion, which is there in our fundamental duties as well. So, this has been his part, and again, just giving a respect to him. This is again one question visible over screen. Try to write this answer within 150 words. This write in 150 words. Write in 150 words. And in case you people need any help, feel free to reach out to us. I hope that the topics I tried to cover at the end of year 2025 was understood you. And even in any case you people need any help to understand the topic that I covered, feel free to reach out to us in next IS. I wish that your year 2025 was very good for you people. You people prepared well, worked well, understood the concept well, and I wish you very good luck for you in year 2026. I hope and I wish that Almighty will definitely grace all the blessings, all your people's hard work. Keep studying, keep watching daily news analysis, and any case, feel free to reach out to us at Next Eyes. Thank you very much. Thank you.